Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for your support of Indie Agency News as I scratch my eye. And why wouldn't you do that? You know what? Let's meet an indie agency. I'm going to keep that in there. Kate Wolff. I mean, we
I
got to
love
keep
it.
that in. We got to keep that in, right?
100%. It's an organic moment. I love it.
An
Truly authentic to who you
organ-
organic, authentic moment. Truly, we pivoted to end up
Sh-
here.
Should we just try to be as corporate sounding as we can?
100%. We're gonna find synergies all the way through. I'm
It
not
was
even
an
mad.
authentic, yeah, it was an authentic, organic moment that we were allowing
Yeah,
ourselves to pivot to.
yeah,
So yes,
yeah.
yes.
Perfect.
So all right, so we are in Los Angeles. Well, I'm not. I'm in Portland. You're in Los Angeles. The agency Lupine Creative. So those of you that understand that Wolf Lupine, right?
So,
Yeah.
as my wife likes to say, too creative to name it after her, too vain to not. Started as a copywriter. What's Latin for wolf? Here we are.
I
Lupine.
started as a copywriter too. $35 per
Ah,
script in radio.
oh, love that. Used to write Dunkin' Donut scripts, opening on scaffolding, people eating sandwiches.
Duncan. All right,
Dunkin'.
we'll get into your Boston thing here in a second, but let me ask the stock questions that I ask
Yeah.
everybody. They're not stock. It's contextualized. It's to contextualize all of this. So we've covered the agency name. When did you found the agency?
We were founded in 2020, which has
Mhm.
been a wild ride. Started it in February of 2020. So obviously was not expecting some of the things that we all know came to be in 2020 in February.
Sure. Yeah. So what did that feel like? I mean, it was like,
Well, I waited a long time to start my own shop. I was at another place beforehand and loved
mhm.
that job. I consider that the best job I've ever had, and hopefully the last job I'll ever have. Um, but when I left, it's a blessing and a curse. It was very hard in the beginning, especially because we started with an experiential arm. With Lupine, so that was a big
Mm,
part of our movement and momentum. And we got a really big client that obviously was canceled around at the end of March and had to lay off the staff I had just hired, and that was really tough. But I also look at it like, hindsight is 2020. Looking back on that, I think if I was still the role that I was prior and I hadn't left right before, I probably would have been there because I'm an empathetic leader and I would have stayed on to help the teams.
mm,
And I equate that to, it is far easier to turn around in a room alone than it is to turn a large ship, right? So
right.
I was blessed with the ability to, you know, shut it down and rebuild it very easily without any other input besides my own.
Right, right. No, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So you're in LA, one of my favorite
Yep.
places to go.
Yep.
Uh, what would you say the agency is best known for?
Oh, that's a hard question, and something I'm actually trying to define. I think indie agencies have a hard time with
Oh,
this. I
let's
used
do
to
it
say,
together. Let's do it together now.
okay, perfect. I love that. So here's where I'm at. I have distilled down that I think one, we make a lot of noise for our clients. We're really good at making cultural conversation. And
Ooh.
so what is that as a deliverable gets harder and harder. One of the things I always go back to is I say advertising and art are the same thing, except one of them needs to work. And so we make work that works, right? We make art that works. But really it's about creating some kind of truly tangible conversation, whether that's what you talk about at dinner with your family or what you take to the internet for. But truly trying to make some kind of engagement moment and conversation around your brand.
Right. No, that's tracking. I get
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that one. I like that a
Yeah.
lot. Now, what would you distill down? Every agency does a lot of things well, and we ask people to prioritize it. What would you say are the three top core strengths of Lupine?
Oh, with the lists. Well, I'll say one, we have a commitment. So that's a big part of who we are as a company, both internally and externally. It's the same commitment. We leave communities and people and spaces, physical spaces, better than we found them. So when I look at that from like an employee standpoint, my only KPI, and I use that back in on us, my only metric there for every employee is that they come in and they leave. When they leave better than when they started. So
Mm,
that can be from gathering experience to, getting help in some kind of management training to, getting a bigger book, whatever that might be. But the whole experience tries to remain positive, and even if it's hard, it's still fruitful for you on an individual level.
Yeah.
And then, we apply that to the work, meaning like when we look at communities and for our target audiences, we make sure that we put the money back in the community that we're trying to address. So if we're doing anything in the queer space, we make sure that we hire queer people to make that work, with all the way down to the grip crews from a video production to the fabricators, whatever that is, we have that community in the space working on it. Same goes for any marginalized or targeted community. So that can be, the Black community to gamers, whatever that might be. We want to fuel those economies and make sure that we're paying attention.
And paying.
Yes. For some of our larger retainer clients, we literally track the amount of money we funnel back into the place that they're trying to reach as a metric that we report on at the end of the year. And I love that. I think that's really important. And, that's honestly built up a career of, I think everybody in advertising can agree, this can be taxing. It can be really hard. It feels all encompassing. And sometimes it's like, why? Because at the end of the day, we are not, for all the tropes, it's not rocket science and we're not saving lives.
Right.
Unless you are, good on you. But that the most passionate people are in advertising. We work so hard, but I got tired of making it feel ephemeral. Right. Like,
Perishable.
So how do you funnel the big money or any money really into communities where there's lasting impact? Like truly you leave it better than when you came in. So you're not co-opting a voice of a community. You're finding the people on the ground already doing it and just paying them, so they could do more of it. Like, how do you do more of that?
Are you willing? And so again, you and I, before we started, I was talking about how I've spent in my radio days, 5 years of it was in hip hop and R&B, and I worked in a very diverse team, and it was just, it really like hardwired me in my worldview. Still, obviously, clearly a major issue within this industry. It sounds like, well, first of all, you have to go with intention, but then intention leads to action. How did you navigate going from intention to action? And where I'm going with this is, and I, maybe Los Angeles, there is a larger talent base, but in places where it might not be as diverse, what did you need to do to get because it sounds like for the queer audience, it's like, okay, we're going to go here. That might be a little easier because you have some practice. What, at the beginning of the process, how did you start engaging with and sourcing those communities again, so that they could get paid and to do the work?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, I always ask everybody the same. There's two things that I repeat over and over and over again at Lupine. One is, and then what happens, right? Which is basically thinking through, okay, I want to know what the user journey is all the way until they're taking their socks off at night in their own house and they're getting into bed. So I want to know all the steps. Because that makes you find all the holes and you can kind of think through all those pieces. The other piece is having some intention criteria at the beginning of your project or any kind of campaign, right? And making sure that you're in the upfront considering and doing all that you can do. So when things don't go the way you want, when you're hitting a wall and you're running out of time or money, or and your intent is going by the wayside of what is possible, right? We always ask, did you do all that you can do? And if you can answer that honestly, then that is okay. It's okay to fail. You learn more from your failures than your successes every time. But you should absolutely try to you should try to, with the right intention, over and over again, and try to set more time. Take the key learning. If you need more time to actually do something, then broker it in the next deal or the next project. So the way we do that is, one, break your echo chamber. Get outside of your LinkedIn, ask your friends to help. Word of mouth is extremely powerful. And that's including for people getting even new employees into your team. The other thing is, with especially indie agencies, where I'm never going to have the staff that's going to be able to be as diverse as it could possibly be. There's as many ways to be gay as there are gay people. There are multitudes of Black creators. There are multitudes of Latina and Latinx creators, so we can't represent every facet of every piece of every culture at every given moment, at every given time, underneath the roof of Lupine. It would be impossible. So what we do is we factor in things like, when we run a multicultural initiative that's year long, I hold money to bring in contractors to diversify the voice continuously throughout the year. We call it the bullpen. It works really well. It allows us to continue to pay people that maybe I can't hire full time under the scopes of work that we currently have, but we can diversify how we spend that money across the board. And I don't need to have a body full time if I'm looking to get somebody that, at one time or another is representative of different communities.
Right.
Yeah. So it's about intention, really, just making
Yeah.
sure that you're being strategic in how much you can do. And if perfection is the horizon, which is a line that recedes as you approach it. So,
Yes.
right.
Yeah. I have a feeling you may be getting some emails from people, and this is a good thing, that may want to pick your brain on this.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like you've built system, and I mean, look at my hair, but I do like systems and processes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and it sounds like you've built systems and processes that really perform very well here.
We have, and that's helpful because I am not an expert on all things multicultural, and I'm surely
Mhm.
not an expert on things on all things diverse. I am a expert in terms of queer marketing and things like that, or at least I'm trying to be,
Mhm.
and trying to better myself with as much education and as many studies as I could possibly commission on the do the work side of my life. Which is an organization that I co-founded with Graham Nolan, and it's designed to create representation and share a voice and hold brands accountable for supporting queer initiatives and creating queer representation and mentorship. So that's something that I can play in, but I can't play in every single space. So what I
Right.
do is I bring in diverse thought, and everybody's lived experience changes the way you look at the world.
Yep.
So having those voices, like when we do our creative process at Lupine, we hold a yes and. A yes and is not designed for for everything to be perfect and you walk out with fully fledged concepts. No,
Mhm.
career creatives know how to make a concept, but everybody can have a good idea, a good thought. Doesn't make it actionable from a marketing standpoint, but it can be an
Right.
input, could be a warm lead. And so when we do briefings, the whole company, if you have bandwidth, you get your ass in that room, and it's fun, and it is positive, and the objective is 1 hour of brainstorming that is the gasoline in the tank of the team that moves, you know, to actually finish the brief. But it makes everybody feel like they're a part of it, and also we get really diverse lived experiences and
Yep.
lenses that I wouldn't be able to conjure myself, for sure.
Right. No, makes 100% sense.
Yeah.
Let's go to why you love being indie. Why is it important to your team to be independent?
I love being independent. I am not driven by money. I'm driven by autonomy. That has always been my personal journey. You can ask my parents. It's always been the thing. Like, I just want to be able to have a say, and a real say. Um, as my friends will say, I never not have an opinion I don't like. So, um, right. But I do think they're not enough female owned agencies, female
Yeah.
funded, female owned. We're a limited rare breed, which is so incredibly sad because we make great leaders and great creative thinkers. And that's predicated on a ton of systematic oppression, which riddles throughout the entire, not just advertising, everywhere. So it is,
Mhm.
when I had the opportunity to do it on my own, I jumped at it because I was able to do that. And that is that I feel incredibly privileged to be able to do that, and want to do that. I hope more people do that. But I got my taste of indie after doing years and years of big holding company agencies, jumping from the DDBs and the Chiats to the Hill Holidays to the Publicists and the Rhineys of the world. So really touching the major corporations, and I consider those my residencies. Like, those were real
Mhm.
training years. I jumped around different departments. I learned a ton. I feel blessed that I was in the heyday of advertising in the early 2000s, where people were really passionate, and we worked hard. We worked really, really hard. I learned so much. But the second I jumped to indie, the second I went to my first one, I went, oh, this is creative without some of the sandboxes and handcuffs that come with large scale companies and the bloat and the ego. And I'm no longer training, I'm running. So this is a place I want to be. And I think I can build it in a different way. And I started
Mhm.
that's when I got the spark, the inferno to say, maybe this is something I want to do, want to own.
Mhm.
Prior to that, nobody goes, I want to own Omnicom. I don't know. Seems crazy. Seems like a lot of work.
And we get mugs made
Yeah,
with that. It seems like a lot of work.
it seems like a lot of work.
Right. What's the main reason a brand should work with you and your agency?
We're good people. I think.
Right.
I mean, here's the thing. There's every agency is going to come up with some log line of why they should be sold, but what's real about our industry is the people make the work and the people move around. So my objective here is to find like-minded entrepreneurial spirits. I call them delightful weirdos.
Yep.
To bring into this pack, and when they leave better than they came in. It's not a cult. It's not, it's okay to leave.
Right.
It's okay. We're not a family and we're not a cult. We're a community and you can come in and out of it. And as long as we can maintain the culture, which is, in my opinion, a thing that the agency or administration does not provide to the agency. The culture of an agency is an agreement made by the team and employees of it on an everyday basis. So when you get a new employee, your culture changes because they're adding new inputs. So you find the right sauce, the right mix that makes up the people that can maintain the thing that you want. That's the thing that brands will be gravitated towards. And the other thing, and most importantly, is be accountable. So when you fail, own up to it. When you succeed, celebrate it.
Mm-hmm. Your Boston came out a little bit there.
Yeah, well,
it's not a cult.
It's not a cult.
That's how
does your though?
Yeah, how does your Boston sensibility play into the way that you operate? And I mean, and I'm not trying to be monolithic about Bostonians. My family's from outside Philly, so take it how you want, I suppose. But there tends to be, in my experience, some no nonsense, a little bit of good-natured, a good-natured poke in the ribs, and probably 40% of the people you know are named Sully. So how does that inform the way that maybe your worldview is, especially being in Los Angeles, which is, Lakers town, and you're a Celtics fan?
Yeah. What are you trying to say? You're trying to say that if I'm from Boston, there's some problem with that? No,
Clearly not.
Clearly not. I am. Yeah, there's a hardness to people from Boston, and I think that comes from extreme cold weather.
Right.
It's very. One thing I do get a lot of is somebody meets me. I've lived in Los Angeles for 13 years. I love LA. I'm never leaving.
Yeah.
The sun is a real thing. I do get a lot that immediately after meeting me, you don't seem like you're from LA. I don't even know what that means. It just means that I'm more direct, and I think that's an East Coast thing. My directness is always defined the way I lead, which is polarizing. For some, it is kindness and clarity being, I will tell you exactly what's happening. And you can say really hard things and be kind. You can say things like, in this project, you underperformed, and here's why. And then you give feedback of why, so it's actionable. Feedback, constructive criticism outside of anything constructive or actionable is unhelpful.
Of course.
It needs to come with some kind of action. So you can do those things. Some people don't like that. But it is something in my personality that, I think helps us.
Right.
It definitely helps at least some of the people that have worked with me in the last 10 years grow and helped me grow. Yeah. And so, I think if you're done iterating, you should be dead. So, I'm learning every day from every person. And I can be direct about that. My Bostonianness it can fill a room. I have a big personality. That's who I am.
I mean,
and 2 pugs.
That'll do it. Yeah. And I will say some of the best food on the planet is in Boston. Let's be honest.
Thank you.
North End. Oh,
yeah.
Actually,
good.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm half Italian. And so we go on the North End all the time. Forget it.
So Mike's are modern pastry. It's a real question.
Mike's.
Oh, Mike's. Twist. See, I'm a Mike's cannoli. I'm a Mike's cannoli girl.
Yeah.
But modern pastry, I think, is older.
They have the better
family. They got the better tiramisu. They got better. I know.
Like the squishy cakes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yes, I do. Now I got to get back there. Is your wife in this business?
Oh, absolutely not. Otherwise,
Oh,
we would never
good.
be married.
Okay.
Absolutely not. My wife is what I like to call a real person. She is the reason why we're in Los Angeles. We moved here 13 years ago when she got residency at LA County Hospital to work in
Got it.
both the med and pediatrics, and she does a lot of like medicine for the incarcerated, homeless youth, and trafficked folks
Mhm.
of Los Angeles. So she does really really intense things, which actually has helped me quite a bit from a leadership standpoint. Because when I cut to 13 years ago, I would be coming home saying things like, how many people need to read a PowerPoint to not make me look like an idiot, you know?
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
And she would say things like, "Oh, I had a really hard day. A couple people died," and I'd be like, "So we're getting Thai food, and I'll rub your feet." Um,
Right, right.
so like it puts things in perspective when you're like freaking out about a Holland America print ad, and what you're dealing with is what is high octane, high intensity, but maybe not consequence.
Right.
So that helped me a lot, which is it's not precious, it's passionate, and
Yeah,
they're different things.
yeah, very much so. Last question, which is a little bit of a thought experiment. Whether this is a current client or a client you'd like to work with, which CMO or marketer would you like to say hello to?
Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, I know, right?
Which CMO or marketer
And
that
don't
I would
start
like to
rattling through.
see?
Don't just start knocking
No,
them.
I
It's like,
won't.
and
Okay,
I'm talking
so
to
here
yourself or to
I
me.
got a good
Right.
one. Yeah, I
All
got a
right.
good
All
one.
right. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I would like to meet Omar Johnson. Now, I know he's been out of the game for a while, but I actually would be really interested to talking to him, only because one of his quotes has really stuck in my ribs forever, and it is something that I think about all the time, and it definitely influences how I think here at Lupine, which is, an insight isn't an insight if it's found at the second half of dinner. An insight is an insight if it's found on the internet because everyone has it. An insight is found at the second half of dinner. And I have loved that. I've really gravitated
Mm,
towards that, which is like spend time in the communities you're trying to reach and actually understand what you're looking for. It's, if you can Google search it, it's accessible. So what is something that isn't accessible to most that you can really pull from? And while he's no longer, I know he jumped to Apple after Beats and all that fun stuff, but I would really like to meet him at some point.
I like that a lot. I like
Yeah.
that. All right. Actually, I have a bonus question.
Okay.
Uh, who do you got for the Stanley Cup next season?
Oh, well, Brad Marchand just became the captain, so I'm going Bruins all day long.
Against?
Uh I would love to see a Bruins Avalanche game to bring back my childhood, but
Okay.
always Penguins. I'm always down for a Penguins game.
All right. So I'm a lifelong Philadelphia Flyers fan, but
Okay.
they barely exist at the moment.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Seattle Kraken against the Bruins, Kraken in 7.
Okay. I'm down for that, but the Bruins will come out on top.
There will be wagering. There will be
Yeah.
wagering. Kate, I will tell you this, not just our friend Graham, but other people said you're gonna love Kate. And yeah, I do. I'm so glad that you joined us
Thanks, Doug.
and had a great time. We'll definitely see
Yeah.
you in Los Angeles when I make my way down. Come on up to Portland sometime. Come on up.
Sure.
Come
Done
on
and
up.
done.
Yes, but thank you so much for joining us and best wishes for continued success.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me.